right. Well, thanks again for having me. It's yeah, it kind of surprised me a little bit that I was asked to do this, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I figure my turn in the barrel is going to come somewhere, and why not be about something I'm doing currently? So I used the name that you had when you sent the request to me, Most Worshipful. I felt it was an appropriate title for the slide deck. The importance of the 6 steps while we're stuck in neutral. Wish I could have found a better picture, but such as it is. Being stuck doesn't mean we cannot do anything. Is essentially what motivated me to do the 6 steps program that I've been doing via Zoom over the last couple of weeks. And we still have a duty to get to know the men who are knocking at our door. I think that that's work that we can continue to do whether we're in a pandemic or back to regular business. And I feel that we can always continually improve on that. So the Grandmasters Forum, I'd heard, and these are kind of my words, right? But we have many men who are interested in masonry but cannot do anything with them. We cannot meet with them because of COVID-19. And I got to thinking, why? I mean, why can't we meet with these guys? Especially when District 8 and District 13 had both started doing regular Zoom meetings. Many of them contained educational programs, which continue to today. And I know for me, that kind of set the bar for the rest of fraternity, while we're in this pandemic, along with what our youth groups have done. There's really just no excuse not to do anything, right? I saw it as an opportunity, definitionally opportunity is a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. Well, I took the circumstances of COVID-19 and the do something was the 6 steps with the Senior Grand Warden. COVID's going to be with us for a while, whether we like it or not. A lot of things are just now hitting into, I think, phase 3 with the testing of vaccines. And, we still have a large number of cases that are happening day to day. And I think it's going to be a while before we get back to that just normal way of doing things. And unfortunately, I almost believe it's going to be probably this time next year before we get back to an actual normal. So we need to start doing things in time to keep masonry alive and keep doing the business that we need to do. So traditional approach is one of the things we talk about in the 6 steps program, and what that means is that a man was typically introduced by another Freemason or by a family member. They usually came recommended by another Freemason or another person. And the person knew them long enough that they were able to know this man's character. They knew what he was about. They know what makes him tick. I guess arguably you could say even to the point to where he knows his faults, and can have a pretty good measure about whether that is a good man to begin with. Because I don't believe that we're looking for, as is frequently said, taking good men and making them better. I think we are striving, or should be striving, to find the best men we possibly find, give them the tools to improve themselves in the areas that they feel they need improvement, and to better the fraternity and our society. Today, most interest is driven by what's seen in movies, books. I think the biggest thing that comes to my recollection was Dan Brown. When those movies came out, there was just this huge interest in masonry. Everybody wanted to know what it was about. Get a lot of guys, I've experienced this myself at Harmony Lodge, where you're just getting ready to start a meeting and a guy will walk through the door right off the street. I don't know this guy. I don't know where he's come from. I don't know anything about it, and it's not to say he's a bad person. It's just, I can't tell you if he's a bad person because I don't have that personal connection. And so that is what makes the 6 steps, I think, even more crucial, that we have something in place to get to know these men. Let's see here. So this is off the petition, and when I made myself available as junior grand warden, I carried a petition around in my pocket, and I would frequently pull it out at some of the district meetings that I attended, and I would ask people, have you ever read or taken the time to read this front page on a petition? Because it really is, it's kind of a contract. It's kind of outlining what we expect from that prospective Mason. It's outlining what they can expect from us, and I think that it's got some serious business there, and I think that we need to follow through with that by doing diligent investigations, but also getting to know people before they get that petition in their hands. So Freemasonry in all ages is insisted men shall come to its doors entirely of their own free will, okay? Not from feelings of curiosity and from a favorable opinion of the institution, or with a favorable opinion of the institution. Meaning, in my mind, they should be doing some homework to find out what it is they're getting themselves into, to find out what Masonry is and what's expected of them. And I guess for me, everything that's on that page is important, but I highlighted some of the things that just stand out to me in that document. So a little further on in that petition, we talk about the essential purpose of Freemasonry is to further development of individual Mason as an honest, ethical, moral, and sincere, caring, and charitable man, learning more about his own potential as a human being and developing his intellectual and spiritual character. Man should never enter the fraternity in hope of making business connections or for any other sort of professional or monetary gain. I think this is one of those misunderstood, things about Masonry. And it's not to say that our fraternity does not have benefits, but I would argue it's not the primary reason that many of us become Masons. I think it's a secondary benefit, if you will, of Masonry, in that you will be acquainted with men from across all walks of life that may in some way be able to, at least help you out a little bit when you need it. And I think that you should be able to have that within a fraternal organization. I think that's part of taking care of each other as brothers. And it goes on to say, if he does, he'll be disappointed, for they will not be found there. What he will find is a group of like-minded men who are willing to treat him as a brother and to share in a deep and rewarding fellowship with him. And I think that's ultimately what we all strive for when we come together as Masons. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is the questions 24, 25, and 26 on our petition. And it has the statement, the undersigned has been personally acquainted with the above named petitioner for X months and or years and recommends him as fit and proper. What is an appropriate amount of time to know somebody? How long do you need to know what somebody's character is about? And I think when people talk about, we have a 5-step thing, we have a 4-step thing that we do, and it's immaterial to me how many steps you take. I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, whatever you're doing, enough time to get to know that person to where you can sign that petition knowing that he's got good character and he's going to be a proper fit for Mason. And each lodge is going to have to make that determination. It further states the brother must belong to the lodge to which petition is submitted, and that means whoever's signing it needs to be a member of that lodge. And it's recommended that the signer of the petition should utilize the 6 steps program, or I would argue some process to get to know somebody, be acquainted with the petitioner. Again, how do we do that? Now we should meet. What does it mean to be acquainted with somebody? And that's one of the things that I tried to do with the initial putting together the 6-step program that I started doing. I had no intention of doing a part 2 or part 3 when I started this. I really was going to make it about bringing non-Masons and Masons together so that they could have that conversation and ask those questions, and to create a forum where they could learn about masonry, and that we can learn about the perspective, young men that had that interest in masonry. And I knew it was something that we could do because it was evidenced, as I previously said, with District 8 and District 13's Zoom meetings that they've been holding. We can do everything in these meetings that we can do sitting in a dining room or sitting in a lodge room, except touch each other. I mean, we can't shake each other's hands. But outside of that, we can have the same fellowship, the same conversations, talk about the same things. So the 6 steps consist of, well, 6 steps, right? And then, in brief, it's the first step is supposed to be the interview and discussion. And usually that comes along with, he's pinged your website, or maybe Grand Lodge has fed you a name and a phone number to reach out and talk to somebody. In-depth interview and discussion, task them with reading some material, answering some questions. Step 3, follow-up meeting, assigning some memory work. Step 4, social meeting, introduction to members at a social function. Ongoing social events. And in my mind, the ongoing part is take it outside of the lodge too. I mean, go to Cobb, go and do some of these external events that we do, so you can kind of see how that man interacts in a public setting versus sitting in a lodge room. A lodge room or a lodge building can be somewhat sterile, but when you're out in public, how does that person interact, or how does he behave? And then it comes to step 6, him asking for a petition. Let's see here. So steps 1 through 3, 6 steps of the Senior Grand Warden's way to bring brothers from our jurisdiction together with prospective candidates. These were some of the things that I set out to do when I said I was going to do this, right? Provide a place to hear why these men were interested in Freemasonry, provide an opportunity to meet Masons of our jurisdiction and let brothers share what they have gotten out of Freemasonry, and perhaps share, what they maybe expect out of a new Mason coming in. I think is fair to say. Provide some hands-on examples of the type of work that Masons engage in. So whether that be, the memory work, fellowship types of events that we do, education, I think, all these things kind of set the tone of what it is that we do within our fraternity. And to provide your prospective candidate with information about Masonry, which I think is the most important thing, what it is and what it is not. Incidentally, I got one email from a young man who had attended the 6-step sessions, and he sent the email and said, I want to thank you for, giving me the opportunity to attend this event, but at this time, I'm not going to be joining Masonry. And the way it was written, it was like, okay, what did we do? Kind of a thing. So I reached out to him. I sent him an email back. I said, well, if you don't mind, would you be willing to share with me what your reasons are for not wanting to pursue Freemasonry at this time? And he simply stated it was work and life is a priority right now, and that's what I got to do. And so that was the one thing he took away from, those 3 sessions, was that, family and work was important, and that you have to take care of those types of things. So in my mind, that was a win. That was, that was something that should have come out of the 6 steps process. Somebody being able to make that determination that I need to wait a little bit before I pursue this versus, doing it now. So steps 4 through 6, right? So while we're in COVID-19, we can have the prospective candidate participate in some of our virtual social settings. I think District 13 is an excellent example. I keep throwing it out there. Because I mean it. I mean, what's been done on Mondays and Wednesdays is stuff that I look forward to every week. Cobb, something they did down south, and started down south. I know they have it up here, and I think it's Kent. But, the opportunity to go meet somewhere. You can actually probably do a little bit of that right now with the way things are going. I mean, the rules are, depending on where you go and how they're set up, but you can also do it online. I mean, I have my libation here. we can sit on a Zoom meeting and have a conversation about something and enjoy, you know, our favorite beverage. I think that's something we can do online just as well as we can do out at a pub or somewhere else. And again, you know, you do an activity like that, you might get to see a different side of how a person acts. It's interesting once you get a little alcohol in somebody, how they change, how they act a little bit, and that may or may not be important, right? Grand Lodge of California is another example that comes to my immediate mind of programs that have been done virtually online that provide, you know, educational topics and just keep not only Masons engaged, but just it's good for non-Masons because they can learn and dispel some of the things that they may be coming across on the internet. When COVID is in the rearview mirror, we can invite the prospective candidate to lodge night, dinner before a meeting, or maybe something after the meeting. Again, we've got our outside events, participate in lodge events, and honestly, I don't see much of a difference between the two lists that I have up here on the screen. I think we can do just about everything except for touch each other and shake hands. That's the only limitation right now, you know. So I would say consider inviting your prospective candidates and their lady to join, you know, virtually or in person too. I don't think that's out of the question. You know, the program with the education that was done, was it last week? I think would have been something that, you know, a lady might enjoy attending, and would have been very informative to, you know, kind of see what's going on and the things that Masonry takes an interest in. So. All right. I wanted to provide an example that might be used for lodges and districts to conduct their own version of 6 steps. This is ultimately what I want out of this, right? I want to show people that you can do this. I plan on putting some notes together and kind of, you know, maybe a 1 or 2 page document to kind of explain how to set it up and maybe go about it. But anybody can do this. You know, this is not rocket science by any stretch. Does not have to be 6 steps. It can be 3, 4, or 5. Arguably, I'm only covering the first 3 steps. If you really think about it, I mean, you could maybe say, you know, we're having a social meeting of sorts, kind of mixed into everything, but the way I've kind of formatted it and put together, there's a lot of things that are being blended together over that period of time that we're spending together. And when we get back to, you know, doing things at regular lodge, it doesn't have to, again, be 6 steps. It can be 3, 4, 5. I think what's most important is that we just have something set up to get to know folks. Many lodges already have an established process. I understand that. I know that. I'm not trying to tell anybody to do anything differently. I'm just merely throwing another thing out there that hopefully people can take and use and find value in, to get to know people that are coming to become members of our fraternity. We can't rely on investigation process alone. We need to know the prospective candidate. It's too often the case, I believe. I don't know how often it's happening, but I know I've got a pretty good idea that it does happen more often than it should. And that is, somebody walks up to you and says, "Here, sign this. I need a 3rd signature on a petition." And we have to stop doing that. And unless you know that person, we need to not do that anymore. I think I've used the example of when I became an Eagle with the Eagles Club. One of the things that stood out for me when I became a member was, don't bring anybody into this club that you wouldn't bring into your house. And I feel that should be the same way with our lodges. Don't bring anybody into the lodge that you wouldn't bring into your house, leave alone with your wife and kids or favorite pet. And trust them, you know, complicitly. And while we cannot meet in person, again, we can meet virtually, and we should at every opportunity. We can do everything virtually. We can do in person. I can't stress that enough. I was talking a little bit with Most Worshipful, you know, before we started tonight. And, you know, one of the hindsight things for me when we went into this pandemic was that I probably would have strongly recommended to either Most Worshipful Woody or Chris that we tell lodges that they will meet on their regular stated night by Zoom or by some kind of conference. Because, you know, to do that essential business. And maybe if we would have went down that road, people would have been less apt to come back with the "I can't do this" excuse, you know. So so there you have it. Questions?
Let me open up the mics here, and we'll get some questions answered. We'll get some questions asked. So I guess let me ask a question to the group. I know my lodge has received a couple of people. Has any other lodge received a couple of people from either the Grand Lodge or are you working with any right now? And how's it working for you? You know, knowing that you can teach them, but you can't take them to the next step, being degrees. So who's out there? Nick.
At King Solomon, we've gotten a list of 2 or 3 guys that I'm actually working on getting emails and phone numbers out to them to see what we can do to get them to do these things. I would like to plug them into the District 13 meetings and specifically plug them into the 6-step meetings with Right Worshipful. I was actually able to listen to the meeting. I was in my car. It was 2 Tuesdays ago. I think that they were doing the memory of the working tools for an entered apprentice. And I was really impressed with some of those guys that, you know, there were a couple guys that didn't have it really down very well, but by God, they were willing to work on it and struggle through it and didn't mind taking the 5 minutes to show that they struggled through it. And I think it's great. It's a great process.
So looks like our visitor from the east has a remark or question.
Yeah, I just wanted speaking for Manitou Lodge, Jim. We've not seen any new inquiries that I am aware of. Of course, those are inquiries are typically directed to our secretary, and then again, we weren't meeting at all from about June until just a couple of weeks ago. So, but you know, it doesn't say that. It's not to say that won't pick up now that we've resumed our meetings, but so far it really hasn't resulted in any new inquiries.
I can give you some quick stats from King Solomon directly. I know for sure we received 2 just in the recent, as Nick indicated, 2 from Grand Lodge through the deputy. And when I started in 2012, we didn't really have a website. So I asked or pushed, or what do we want to say, how I do things, but we got a website and I put a form up there as quickly as I could. And since 2012, we received about 85 or 90 inquiries from our website in various forms. Some of them, as I forward them, most of them or almost all of them to the officers, and we all get a chuckle out of the ones that are actually the son of Solomon. Or think they're the son of Solomon or some other godly figure. So there's I don't know, I don't have the numbers on real people, but it's quite a few. It's 50 or 60 probably that we've received over the last 10 or 12 years here, and so or more, whatever it's been. But we had 3 out of that. So I emailed all of them. I emailed them on a semi-regular basis to our social night, but I emailed all of them to attend this. We had 3 regularly come that aren't part of that 2 from Grand Lodge and had kind of come out of the woodwork to show some interest. And they went through all 3 steps, and we've gone through some 3 steps with them or partial steps before with them. So it was they all really enjoyed it. They all appreciate it. One of them actually encouraged them to take us to do the 4th step with him. So I had a couple of guys get together. We had lunch with them. And so it was a great program. I really appreciate the Right Worshipful to put that program on. Out of that 50 or 60 that we've had inquiry, I think I'd have to double check the numbers, but it's either 8 or 10 that have converted and have become Masons.
Wow.
And so we have a pretty good conversion ratio. It's not great. We've also had those, as you indicated, there was one for sure that strikes me. He was attending our social events probably 3 or 4 months in a row. and he was lingering afterwards asking about different things. And I said, hey, has anybody actually asked you about the next step? And he goes, well, not really. I said, oh, well, okay, great. Well, the next step is essentially, even though he was really in step 4 or 5 or, the social events, he really hadn't even done step 2 and hadn't taken the traditional approach information, the 12 questions. And so I had him do the 12 questions. We sat down and went through those on his next social night. And he wasn't able to answer one of the questions. It happened to be this is a lifetime commitment. Do you realize there's a lifetime commitment? And he didn't quite understand that. I said, well, we'll be here every fourth Thursday. We're here every second Monday. As you develop it, we can answer more questions. That means you need more information. And so unfortunately, as your candidate mentioned, he's not taking the path. He's doing something else, but it helped him understand that it wasn't quite ready for him.
So I see we have the Worshipful Master from St. Andrews 35. Do you have anything you want to ask of our Senior Grand Warden?
No, not really. I mean, we've been doing the farm of the 6-step program for quite some time, and it works fine. It works really well, and I just appreciate the refresher on it tonight. And but no, actually, that's all I really have to say. So, unfortunately, I wish we could meet, but that's down the line. So, but anything else? But no, that's basically it. So, I'm just listening in, refreshing.
So, my worship, go ahead. So, worshipful, if I can speak for Frank Aslan, I know my worshipful master is here, so he'll correct me if I've made any mistakes. We've received a total of 3 leads just this past year, and we've worked them all. One person just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Another person we started working with, and then we worked with him just as COVID was starting. So we kind of had to stop it. He came to one of our Zoom meetings, hasn't been since, and then I just got a Facebook post from him saying, hey, your upcoming Zoom on Wednesday looks interesting. I think I'll be there. So that's really cool. Another one has been a regular attendee of your program.
Okay.
And he's ready to go. I mean, he wants to go. He's so to the point that he'll send me notes that says, I can't make the Zoom tonight. My apologies. I'm going, you don't need to apologize. I mean, dude, you got other things happening. So that's kind of neat. But here's the one that really makes me happy. There was one other we're working on. Again, we can't, meet with him, but he can attend our Zooms. He's attended a couple of our Zooms, and at our last Zoom, we had a presentation from Washington Masonic Charities. And part of that is we made a donation to the On the Level Success program to help out, youths that identify as homeless. He sent a text, he sent a chat in the middle of it, goes, I love what you guys do. I understand why my friend Steve, that's who likes this lodge so much. Can I make a contribution as well? Okay. Yeah. And all because of the fact you get a non-threatening, or rush good. It goes, learn about us, we'll learn about you, and and they get to see us, and the cool thing about, I wish I could meet with everyone too, but the cool thing about being in this state is that, okay, they can see us on their terms. Yeah. And it's like, okay, these guys are all right. These guys, this looks like an organization that I might either want to be part of or want to support their work. And so we're hoping for some serious degree work after we get out of this. But right now what we have some very interested people, and that's the tough part, is that, and Nick brought it up earlier, that, he'd like to include some of the guys in the Zoom meetings because, you've got to keep them interested. Because if you don't, they'll find something else to do.
Well, and that's something that most worshipers that stuck with me, and you've said it a couple times during these meetings. It's like, what are other lodges going to do when COVID's over with and they haven't been doing anything? It's like they're going to be so used to doing other things that they're not. You'd be lucky to see them get back to lodge, and it's. I think about that sometimes. It's it's like my lodge is one of those lodges. I mean, we're only semi-dark in the summer, but Harmony hasn't done anything. They did one meeting, virtual meeting. I take that back, 2 virtual meetings, and then nothing has happened since. And it just makes me wonder. It's like, I know the Worshipful Master got a new job. He's working graveyard out of prison, right, as a nurse. Okay, I get that, but where's the senior ward? Where's the junior ward? I mean, we're all busy, but it only takes really 30 minutes to do a meeting just to kind of check in with people and see how they're doing and see if everybody's doing okay. And there's got to be bills. I mean, I know Harmony, that's one of our things. We don't have many bills to pay, other than our rent for Olympia Lodge. But yeah, there's got to be some business, that we can do and take care of, even if we have to make do some business. So I don't know.
One thing, very worshipful Matt Apple, my podcast partner, he said a couple times. He said on the show too. He said, if I go back to Lodge and it's the same thing it always was before, after this is all done, I'm going to be really disappointed. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. I'm curious. To me, and he and I talk a lot, of course, and I've talked to you, Right Worshipful, and other members of XCOM about the idea that it's brought to light the issue of what's next in regards to candidates and membership education and training and development and that kind of stuff. And so I guess I'm trying to think, what can we take to the next, of course, basically anything that's in maybe Freemasons for Dummies or almost anything that's in publication we can talk about, right? So we could basically start teaching them about Masonry, but we also got to be careful that we don't unveil that mystery of their degree, I would think. And so there is a fine line there, what we teach them that we don't unveil as well. But I don't know. Any thoughts on what can we talk about? What could we do, or what should we be talking about? Now, I have some ideas on that.
I'm sure you do.
I think what's the book? Something Pilgrim.
Pilgrim's Path.
Yeah.
My favorite book.
I just started reading that the other day. I bought it for my Kindle. And I think things like that are discussed there would make good topics for discussion, that don't divulge all our secrets. But, I know the big thing in the first couple of chapters that I've been in with that book talk about why Masonry is not a religion and why we don't need to have a defined religion in order to be Masons, and why Masons have probably set the tone for that in a free world, that you don't need a defined religion in order for a country to exist. And it's an interesting read. And again, I think those are things that we can teach people about Masonry that don't dig into, what they have to look forward to in terms of their degrees and things like that.
Perfect.
I think the program that the last Wednesday.
What was last Wednesday? I'm trying to think. Last
Scottish.
I was a little out of it, so I don't know.
Was that the Scottish Rite one?
Yeah, the Scottish Rite.
That was the Morgan affair.
Yeah, the Morgan affair.
Oh yeah, that was great. If it was the same, was it Very Worshipful Jeremy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what a great.
And then the one after that, which talked about the high degrees, I think are things that we can have some conversation around that don't really, divulge, what they have to look forward to in Blue Lodge. I kind of get what you're saying, because it's like, I'm very cautious about telling guys and giving them a list of websites, for example, because I don't, in some ways, I don't want to give them all that information. I mean, I don't want them to learn everything there is to know about Masonry and not have anything left to look forward to. So there's a balance that I think we have to find. It's like, how much is too much, but what is just enough? Getting to doing degrees in the Scottish Rite, I think we're all told, at least from my recollection, it's my responsibility as a Scottish Rite Mason to attend all 29 degrees throughout my lifetime, right? And yeah, you can go to Guthrie and watch them all on one weekend, on stage in full theatrical costume. But my point being is that sometimes if you have to wait a little bit for that next thing, it's not a bad thing. That's why I don't like doing degrees back to back. It's like, give these guys time to breathe a little bit and digest what it is that they're supposed to learn from that first degree, or the second degree, or whatever the case may be. So that and you almost kind of leave them, hungry to want to be back. You make sure that they're going to come back. They get a taste of it, they're going to want more, right? You don't give them the whole pie. You give them a piece of that pie. You can have more pie, but you're going to have some of that pie later, right? And it just, I think we have to find that balance. And I think that's what it takes to keep people interested and to get them fully engaged in masonry.
And there are some natural subjects that are out there. It's just finding the people who can speak with them, speak about them with some level of expertise. Jeremy has become a student of the Morgan Affair, so that'll help. Right now, for a future Zoom, I'm looking for somebody who's well versed with Mozart and the Magic Flute, because there are people out there, but it's like, okay, I have a friend, God rest his soul, who was an opera singer who knew more about who was Catholic, who knew more about the illusions of the Freemasonry and the Magic Flute than anybody I've ever. Like, for example, in the Queen's aria, there's 3 knocks, and he actually nudged me in the ribs. I was sitting next to him. He goes, Jim, watch 3 knocks. He goes, you know about that, don't you? And I'm going, whoa. I mean, just little things like that. So I'm trying to find that person. I thought it could be Andrew Hammer, but Andrew as Andrew said, and this is a knowledgeable Mason, one of the most, he said, not in my hitting zone.
Yeah.
He could have done some work and came up with a credible presentation. We all would have been, huh? But here's the guy who said, not in my zone. Let me see if I can find someone for you. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So hopefully we'll find that person he'll help me find that person, because I do know somebody in Seattle area, but he goes off into tangents that's like, no, thank you, I don't want to. Yeah, he provided what he said was going to be a 15-minute presentation on Freemasonry and the Renaissance, which lasted close to an hour and 20. So yeah, I don't want to deal with that. So no, thank you. Does anybody have anything else? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna do the commercial time. David, who's on the podcast?
I think we're a little thin. We got I can't. Dan, I'm having a mind blank. Had a rough week. Stagner, Where's Brother Stagner was just released yesterday, and I think it was part 1 of part 2. He's a tattoo artist, a master of University Lodge 141, and I think it was part 1 of 2. So next Sunday will be 2. We just recorded. I shouldn't say we, because I didn't do it, but the guys just recorded with an interesting show. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. If I talk, a couple of the guys in Canada were talking about how Masonry has made them a better business person, and so that was the show topic last night. And I said, okay, my concern is I don't want it to become a commercial, and they steered away from that, but they were able to talk about the tenets of Masonry a little bit and how it just naturally, I think you alluded to some of that tonight, the things that we are taught naturally help us become better people. So I think they did an okay job on the show. So that could be 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now. I'm not sure if that's going to be the one or if we'll record something in between, but we're still working on some other things.
Okay. So for the District 13 Zooms, we're taking Labor Day off. Okay. So no Zoom on Labor Day. Just want to let y'all know that. So y'all celebrate labor, cook your ribs, that whole thing that y'all gonna do. The 14th, I'm working with Jeremy Yielding because he's got a really cool presentation. But I'm trying to, because we're heading back into it, to avoid the second Monday as a district Zoom, because that's when King Solomon meets, and I'm trying to avoid that going forward, at least through the end of the year. So Scottish Rite will be filling that void for people who want to do Zooms. 21st, Daniel Yatta's coming back.
Nice.
He's going to pick up from where he left off. Where did he leave off? 1835, I think?
Somewhere back there.
So he's going to pick up from where he left off on the 21st. And then the 28th, we've got, and again, you talking about things that we can talk about. We have somebody from Bellingham, Worship Brother Jamie Lamb. He's going to talk about Freemasonry and Greek mythology. Oh, I am looking forward to that one.
It was fun. It was fun. We were at the Hall of Presidents, and they were doing their whole presentation thing, and they were talking about the Boston Tea Party, of course. And I said, "Hey, girls," afterwards, I said, "Hey, do you remember that part about the Boston Tea Party?" And he said, "Yeah, we learned that in school too." And they were talking about it, and They said, yeah, these Indians dressed up like pilgrims went aboard. I said, yeah, but did you know it was the Masons that hired the Indians to go on the ship and do that? And they went, oh, what?
Did you see the Scottish Rite rings that were on display in the Hall of Presidents?
No.
Yeah, there's a couple Scottish Rite rings that are
Yep,
there.
there are. There are a couple there.
Oh, shoot. I didn't see that.
Looking ahead to October, fourth Monday in October the 26th, we're going to bring back Moses Gomez for this reason. He's going to talk to us about Freemasonry in Cuba.
Ooh.
Nice.
I have been fascinated about how Freemasonry can openly exist in Cuba.
Wow.
I mean, so it's like, yeah, okay, I'm very interested in this because this is fascinating to me.
That should be fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for Frank S. Land, the Wednesday Zooms this Wednesday, and don't worry, Ed, I've got you. You're the last one to speak because you got a commercial. Wednesday the 2nd, Very Worship Brother Mike Pretty is going to come talk to us about being a bladesmith. So if you're like me and a fan of the show Forged in Fire, I'm looking forward to this one.
Are you gonna record that, Most Worshipful?
That's my plan.
Hopefully, okay. I think we'll be at the.
And then on the 9th, which is the following Wednesday, Most Worship Brother John May, past Grand Master of Alaska. By the way, I'm loading you up for future your podcast guest here. Is going to talk to us about the history of Freemasonry in Alaska. Let's just say it wasn't the most pleasant of breakups between us and Alaska. Contrary to popular belief, the Grand Lodge of Washington is not the mother lodge of the Grand Lodge of Alaska. Yeah, I know. I was stunned by that too. The 16th, Ryan Leonard is going to talk to us about his eyepiece.
Cool.
I'm fascinated about this. Some of you heard the story about how when I was Ryan was my human GPS going through the streets of Spokane. I didn't realize it until I realized, wait a minute, the blind guy is directing me from where to go. You laugh. He knows the streets.
Yeah.
Plus, he's also the designated Edward. He's going to be the guy chopping off your tie in a couple of years in Newport.
I've had that pleasure.
Frightening, isn't it?
Alarming.
You know, it's not so much that's frightening. It's like, wait a second.
I'll have to post a picture of when I chopped Jim's tie.
It was frightening.
It's when he gets down and he starts to ask somebody asks a question and it's like, what?
No, you know what? It wasn't so much Ryan. It was that the looks of joy on everyone's face that was around me. And of course, on the 23rd, because people need to know how to do social media properly, the adult advisor from Washington, Idaho Rainbow, Taylor Beal, is going to talk to us about how to properly take advantage of social media. If anyone has watched the Rainbow Facebook page or watched Rainbow the YouTube channel or whatever they do, they've got us beat.
Their social media team has done an amazing job this year.
Yeah, they've got us beat. So we need to learn from them. So I'm looking forward to Taylor coming out and showing all of us some fun stuff that it's stunning to me. So those are what's on deck. I'm still working on Brent Morris to come back out again to pick up from 1801. He stopped at 1801, so I'm going to see if I can get a few more years out of him because he did say that. And of course, I'm working on Art de Hoyos too.
So Moses is coming back when?
26th of October. He's going to come talk to us about again Freemasonry in Cuba. Again, this is one of those things when you're looking for things. That one and the one about Freemasonry and Greek mythology. I think those two things are fascinating.
Yeah.
Because and I think there's someone else I'm working on who is and again, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is actually a theory that has some degree of validity. Shakespeare either wrote or inspired the original Masonic ritual. So we're gonna.
I would agree with that theory.
Yeah, so we're gonna see how I'm gonna see if I can get him on board. It's one of those things that that might be one of those he might not let me record it. So, Edward, you have a right, excuse me, my apologies, right worshipful sir. You have a commercial to make.
So tomorrow I'm going to start the 6-step series again. At the suggestion of Very Worshipful David, I'm going to run it the first Tuesday, the second Tuesday, and the third Tuesday to make it a little bit easier for folks to figure out what it is. I took a note from your book, Most Worshipful. I used the same link for the meeting. That will be the same link for each meeting, so hopefully it'll reduce the confusion on which link to use. And I may go just a slight different approach on instead of having stuff to download, for example, for the memory work, I think I'm just going to embed it in the MailChimp that I send out and just keep it simple. So, so yeah, if you have guys that are interested, if you have Masons that want to join the conversation, you know, I look forward to having any and all there. You know, my hope is out of this first meeting is to just really get these guys to open up and start talking. You know, tell us about, you know, what it is about Masonry that makes them interested. What are they expecting from Masonry, et cetera. And for the brothers to kind of share what their experience has been with Masonry, you know, what have they gotten out of it and whatnot. And that's really to kind of set the table for the rest of the conversations we have moving forward. So thank you, Most Worshipful.
Well, don't you have some? Don't we also have something on Thursday?
On Thursday, yes, Grandmaster has another forum. So if we have, if you can make that, please do. You know, hopefully we'll have some conversation around, you know, where we're going to head next through this pandemic. I think it's fair to say that there's some things that are in work and that we can hope to get back to a reasonable level of normalcy, hopefully soon. So I'm not going to spoil what the Grandmaster has, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right. With that, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This has been recorded, so hopefully I will get things squared away. David, the only thing I haven't figured out is I figured out how to do the video wrap, but I haven't figured out how to do the audio wrap. You know, at the beginning, did you just record it on that one and then kind of tag it to the other? Because whenever I try to do the audio, it put the audio on top of everything.
I'm not sure I'm following you. I actually have an editing software that I use, Remo Social, so I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I edit in the video and audio and fade it in and out.
That's fine. Okay, just wondering because I'm just using the video software. I'm just using the editing software that Microsoft has. I mean, I you know, I guess I can go to Ken Gibson's place and you know and use his mixer, but you know,
I use a software called Shotcut. It's actually open source,
okay.
and it's a really good. So it's free. It's a really good editor. Actually, they update it quite regularly, and so you have to lay a second audio layer in.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, again tomorrow, Senior Grand Warden. Wednesday, Frank S. Land. Thursday, Grandmaster. And you do what you're doing down there in the world's most happiest place. But
it's almost 11, so I'm gonna go to bed.
And by the way, try not to leave. I understand you want to leave part of you behind. You know, that's more of a that's kind of a more
that's a college thing.
That's not literal. Okay?
Leave it all behind.
I don't mean that literally. I'm just letting you know that. Okay. Typically, what they want you to leave behind is your money. Well, yes. I guess you are.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. I think that little incident last Tuesday is going to cost much more than my trip.
With that, brethren, thank you so much. Edward, Right Worshipful, sir, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Most Worshipful.
Bye-bye, everyone.